Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UNSS Indomitable and watched the stars bend around them as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel. After 200 years of trying, humanity had finally cracked the secret of moving between the stars at impossible speeds. This was their first voyage beyond the solar system, and Chen felt her heart racing with excitement and fear. "Contact," said Lieutenant Rodriguez from the sensor station. "Multiple ships, unknown configuration. They're holding position near Proxima Centauri." Chen leaned forward in her chair. This was it. The moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. They were not alone in the universe. "Open all communication channels," Chen ordered. "Broadcast in all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace." The response came within seconds. A melodic voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect English through their communication systems. "Human vessel, we greet you with open hearts. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We have been expecting you." Chen exchanged glances with her crew. "Expecting them? How was that possible?" "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations Starship Indomitable. We're honored to meet you. May we approach?" "You may. Please follow our guidance beacon to the meeting coordinates." 3 alien ships appeared on their view screen. They were beautiful vessels, sleek and elegant with flowing curves that reminded Chen of dolphins swimming through water. The human ship, in comparison, looked brutal and angular, covered in thick armor plating and bristling with weapon ports. The meeting took place in neutral space, aboard a council diplomatic vessel. Chen brought a small team with her, including Rodriguez and Dr. James Park, humanity's chief xenobiologist. When they stepped through the airlock, they entered a world unlike anything they had imagined. The council representatives were diverse beyond belief. There was Assessor Vexthal, an insectoid creature with 6 limbs and compound eyes that reflected rainbow colors. Beside him stood Ambassador Quilori, an amphibious being whose skin shifted between blue and green. A third representative, Navarch Tolvan, looked almost plant-like with vine-like appendages that moved with surprising grace. "Captain Chen," Vexthal said, his voice translated by technology Chen could not see. "Welcome to the greater galactic community. Your species has reached the threshold of civilization. We have been monitoring your progress for some time." Chen felt a chill. "Monitoring us?" "Do not be alarmed," Ambassador Quilori said, her voice soothing like water over stones. "We monitor all species approaching FTL capability. It is necessary for the safety of all. The galaxy is vast but also interconnected. We must ensure that new species understand the rules before they venture too far." Over the next several hours, the council representatives explained their civilization. 847 different species had joined together over 200,000 years ago. They had created a system of laws, trade agreements, and most importantly, the warfare accords. "War?" Chen asked. "You still have wars?" Vexthal's compound eyes seemed to dim. "Conflict is natural among thinking beings. Different species have different needs, different beliefs. Sometimes, these differences cannot be resolved through words alone, but we have learned to make war civilized." The concept seemed strange to Chen, but as Vexthal explained, she began to understand. The council did not outlaw war. Instead, they regulated it strictly. All weapons were limited to specific power levels. All shields operated on standardized frequencies. Ships could only be built up to certain sizes and masses. When 2 council members entered conflict, they followed these rules religiously. Battles are fought until one side loses 5% of their forces, Navarch Tolvan explained. At that point, both sides negotiate. Death is rare. Destruction is minimal. Honor is satisfied and life goes on. Like a game, Rodriguez whispered to Chen. But Chen saw the wisdom in it. These species had turned warfare into something almost ceremonial. It was their way of preventing the total destruction that unregulated war could bring. "We would be honored if humanity would join the council," Ambassador Quilori said. "But first, your vessels must be inspected and modified to meet galactic standards. It is not negotiable. All member species must comply." Chen felt her stomach tighten. The Indomitable was humanity's pride. They had built her with everything. They had learned from centuries of warfare on Earth. The ship was designed to survive in the hostile environment of space and to defend humanity from any threat. "What kind of modifications?" she asked carefully. "The Warfare Compliance Committee will evaluate your vessels," Vexthal said. "Any weapons or defenses that exceed galactic standards will need to be removed or disabled." It is a simple process. Most species require very few changes. Chen thought about the Indomitable's railguns, each capable of accelerating projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed. She thought about the nuclear arsenal in the ship's magazines, each warhead powerful enough to destroy a city. She thought about the layered armor, the redundant systems, the compartmentalized design that let the ship keep fighting even after taking catastrophic damage. When would this inspection take place? She asked. We can begin immediately, Vextal said. With your permission, the committee will travel to your home system. We will inspect your fleet and provide you with a full report of necessary modifications. Chen wanted to refuse. Every instinct she had developed in 20 years of military service screamed at her to protect her ship. But she also understood that this was bigger than her feelings. Humanity had dreamed of joining a galactic civilization for generations. They could not throw that away because of pride. I'll need to consult with my government, she said. Of course, Ambassador Quilori said warmly. Take all the time you need. The Council has waited 200,000 years. We can wait a little longer. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. Chen spent most of that time writing her report to Admiral Marcus Okonkwo, the commander of Earth's defense forces. She tried to be objective, but her concerns bled through every paragraph. When she finally stood before the Admiral in his office overlooking the shipyards above Earth, she could see he shared her worries. They want to disarm us, he said bluntly. They want us to meet their standards, Chen corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Okonkwo pulled up holographic displays showing the Indomitable's specifications. Everything that makes our ships effective, they'll want removed. And we're supposed to smile and accept it? Sir, this is first contact. We have to consider the bigger picture. Okonkwo was quiet for a long moment. I know you're right. But Sarah, we built these ships for a reason. We built them because humanity has enemies. We've always had enemies. For all we know, we'll have new enemies out there among the stars. The Council has kept peace for 200,000 years, Chen said. The Council, Okonkwo replied, has never met humans before. Despite his reservations, Okonkwo authorized the inspection. Earth's government was unanimous in their decision. The opportunity to join the Galactic Council was too important to risk. Modifications to the fleet would be a small price to pay for membership in an interstellar civilization. 2 weeks later, the Warfare Compliance Committee arrived in Earth orbit. Assessor Vextal brought a team of specialists from a dozen different species. They came aboard the Indomitable with scanning equipment and data tablets, eager to begin their work. Chen watched them move through her ship like doctors examining a patient. They scanned every system, every weapon, every inch of armor plating. And as the hours passed, she noticed their mood changing. The cheerful efficiency they had started with turned into confusion, then concern, then something that looked very much like fear. When Vextal finally called a meeting in the briefing room, his compound eyes were flickering rapidly, a sign of agitation Chen had learned to recognize. Captain Chen, he said, his voice tight, we need to discuss what we have found. Your vessel is not what we expected. Not at all. Assessor Vextal's compound eyes flickered like strobe lights as he stood at the head of the briefing table. Around him, his team of alien specialists looked equally disturbed. Some were whispering among themselves in their native languages. Others simply stared at the holographic displays showing the Indomitable's specifications. Captain Chen felt her pulse quickening. She had expected some issues, but the level of concern in the room was far beyond what she had anticipated. Captain, Vextal began, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. In my 200 years serving on the Warfare Compliance Committee, I have inspected vessels from 412 different species. I have seen every variation of military technology that the galaxy has produced. But this, he gestured at the hologram. This is unprecedented. I don't understand, Chen said. What's the problem? One of Vextal's specialists, a crystalline being whose name Chen could not pronounce, spoke up. Your main weapons. These railguns. They exceed the galactic standard energy limit by a factor of 43. 43 times? Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered beside Chen. That must be a mistake in the calculations, Chen said. Perhaps our measurement systems are different. There is no mistake, Vextal said firmly. We have checked and rechecked. Captain, a single shot from one of your railguns carries more kinetic energy than the entire broadside of a standard Council battleship. You have 8 of these weapons. One of your vessels could engage an entire fleet. Chen felt her face flush. Our railguns are defensive weapons. They're designed to intercept incoming threats at long range. At what range do you expect to engage enemies? The crystalline being asked. Maximum effective range is approximately 200,000 kilometers. Chen answered. The room went silent. Vextal's eyes stopped flickering and went completely dark, which Chen had learned meant shock. Council engagement range is 15,000 kilometers, he said quietly. Your weapons can strike at more than 10 times our standard combat distance. Chen was beginning to understand the problem. What about our other systems? Vextal pulled up another display. Your missiles. Captain, each one carries a nuclear warhead. Do you understand what you have here? These are planet-killer weapons. They are banned under 17 separate galactic treaties. Possessing them is grounds for immediate quarantine and potential military intervention. They're not planet killers, Chen protested. They're anti-ship weapons. We'd never use them on a planet. The yield of a single warhead is sufficient to devastate a city, another specialist said. This one looked vaguely reptilian. By any definition, these are weapons of mass destruction. And you carry 300 of them. Dr. Park, who had been silent until now, cleared his throat. Perhaps we should explain our development context. Humanity evolved on a high-gravity world. Our planet is more massive than most inhabited worlds in the Council. Our engineering reflects that. It is not just the weapons, Vextal said. He pulled up a cross-section of the Indomitable's hull. Your armor. It is 30 meters thick in places. Multiple layers of different materials. Ablative compounds, reactive elements, redundant plating. Captain, most Council vessels have armor between 2 and 5 meters thick. Your ship is built like a fortress. It needs to be, Chen said. Space is hostile. Debris, radiation, combat damage. The armor keeps our crew safe. But it also makes your vessel nearly indestructible by galactic standards, Vextal replied. We conducted a simulation. A standard Council fleet of 30 ships firing continuously for 20 minutes would fail to penetrate your outer hull. Rodriguez leaned over to Chen. Is that supposed to be a bad thing? Vextal heard him. Lieutenant, yes. It is a very bad thing. The warfare accords are built on the principle of proportional force. Battles are meant to be decisive but not devastating. Your ship violates every principle we have established. It is too strong, too heavily armed, too well defended. Chen felt her temper rising. With respect, Assessor, we didn't build the Indomitable to fight your battles. We built her to protect humanity. We've been alone in the universe for our entire existence. We didn't have the luxury of galactic standards. I understand, Vextal said, and his voice softened slightly. I do, but you must understand our position. If we allow you to keep these vessels as they are, we create an imbalance. Other species will demand to upgrade their own fleets. The warfare accords will collapse, and without those accords, we return to the chaos of unlimited war. So what are you saying? Chen asked. That we need to tear out our weapons? Remove our armor? Make ourselves vulnerable? I am saying that your vessels cannot be allowed in Council space in their current configuration, Vextal said. The modifications required would be extensive. Essentially, you would need to rebuild your ships from the ground up. The room fell into uncomfortable silence. Chen looked at her crew, saw the anger and frustration on their faces. They had worked for years to build these ships. They had poured humanity's resources and ingenuity into creating vessels that could protect their species as they ventured into the unknown. And now they were being told it was all too much. There must be another way. Ambassador Quilori's voice came through the communication system. Chen had not realized she was monitoring the meeting. Assessor Vextal, may I join the discussion? Of course, Ambassador. Moments later, Quilori's holographic image appeared in the room. Her skin was shifting rapidly through different colors, a sign of intense thought. I have been reviewing the inspection reports, she said, and I believe we are approaching this situation incorrectly. The problem is not that human vessels are too powerful. The problem is that they are powerful in ways the warfare accords never anticipated. That is the same thing, Ambassador, Vextal said. No, it is not, Quilori replied. The accords were written to prevent the kind of total war that nearly destroyed so many of our species. But they were written based on the assumption that all warfare would be between Council members, who all subscribed to the same principles. Chen saw where this was going. You're saying there might be enemies who don't follow the accords? Precisely, Quilori said. Assessor Vextal, when was the last Krevnath incursion? Fextal's entire body went rigid. The other specialists stopped their whispering. The name clearly meant something significant. 3,000 years ago, Fextal said quietly, but they were pushed back. They have not been seen since. Have not been seen, Quilori emphasized. That does not mean they are gone, and they were never signatories to the warfare accords. When they came, they did not fight with honor or restraint. They came to consume. Ambassador, this is not appropriate discussion for... Fextal began. For humans, Quilori interrupted. If we are going to demand they disarm, they deserve to know why our own military is structured as it is. Captain Chen, the Council has enemies. We do not speak of them often because they have not troubled us in millennia, but they exist in the dark spaces beyond our borders. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of enemies? The kind that do not negotiate, Quilori said. The kind that do not respect life. When the Krevnath came 3,000 years ago, they destroyed 40 colonies before we stopped them. They did not want territory or resources in the way we understand. They wanted to consume everything in their path. And you stopped them with your current fleet? Chen asked. With ships that follow the warfare accords? We stopped them with numbers, Quilori said. We threw everything we had at them. The casualties were horrific. It was the closest the Council has ever come to falling. After they retreated, we decided never to speak of it again. We told ourselves they were gone forever. But you don't believe that, Chen said. I believe that we have been fortunate, Quilori replied, and I believe that fortune does not last forever. When I look at human vessels, I do not see violations of the accords. I see ships built by a species that understands that sometimes the enemy does not play by the rules. Fextal was silent for a long moment. You are suggesting we allow humans to keep their vessels as a form of insurance against a threat that may never return. I am suggesting we think carefully before we demand a new ally disarm themselves, Quilori said. The accords serve us well for conflict between civilized species. But civilized species are not the only danger in the galaxy. Chen saw an opening. What if we proposed a compromise? Our ships stay out of Council conflicts. We follow your warfare accords when dealing with Council members. But if there's a threat that falls outside those rules, then you would be free to respond with full force, Quilori finished. A protection force, separate from Council fleets but allied with them. The Council will never accept it, Fextal said, but Chen could hear the doubt in his voice. Then perhaps it is time the Council confronted some uncomfortable truths, Quilori said. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Rodriguez jumped to his feet, checking his datapad. Captain, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the outer reaches. Multiple Council colonies under attack. He looked up, his face pale. It's the Krevnath. The bridge of the Indomitable erupted into controlled chaos. Officers rushed to their stations while Captain Chen strode to the command chair, her mind already shifting into combat mode. The inspection meeting was forgotten. Something she had only heard about moments ago was now terrifyingly real. Get me a clear channel to Admiral Okonkwo, Chen ordered. Rodriguez, what are we looking at? Lieutenant Rodriguez's fingers flew across his console. Multiple distress calls from the Tarsus colony in the outer reaches. Reports are confused, but they're talking about organic ships, weapons that adapt, casualties in the thousands. Captain, the first Council response fleet arrived 30 minutes ago. And? Rodriguez looked up, his face grim. They're being slaughtered. 90% casualties in the first engagement. Assessor Vexthal stumbled onto the bridge, his compound eyes wild with panic. This cannot be happening. The Krevnath have been dormant for 3,000 years. Our predictive model said we had another millennium at least. Your models were wrong, Chen said bluntly. She turned to her communications officer. Do I have the Admiral? On screen, Captain. Admiral Okonkwo's face appeared on the main view screen. Behind him, Chen could see the orbital command center buzzing with activity. Chen, I'm seeing the same reports you are. The Council is asking for help. Asking or begging? Chen asked. Does it matter? There are civilians dying, families, children. Chen felt her jaw tighten. She knew what Okonkwo was really asking. The Indomitable was right here, ready to go. But they had just spent hours being told their ship was too dangerous, too powerful. A violation of every rule the Council held sacred. And now those same people wanted them to fight. Sir, if we engage, there's no going back. The Council will see exactly what our ships can do. They'll see us use every weapon they want to ban. I know, Okonkwo said. I'm authorizing the deployment anyway. Take the Indomitable. The relentless and the vengeful spirit will join you as soon as they can break orbit. Chen, you're promoted to Commodore Effective immediately. Show them what humanity can do. The screen went dark. Chen took a deep breath and looked around the bridge. Her crew was watching her, waiting for orders. In the corner, Vexthal was speaking rapidly into his communication device, probably reporting to the council. Set course for Tarsus Colony, Chen said. Maximum FTL speed. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. The Indomitable leaped forward and the stars blurred into lines of light. The journey to the outer reaches would take 6 hours at maximum speed. Chen used that time to gather every scrap of information she could about the Krevnath. What she learned was terrifying. The Krevnath were not like the civilized species of the Council. They were a hive mind, a collective consciousness spread across billions of organisms. Their ships were grown, not built, combining biological tissue with some form of technology that the Council scientists still did not fully understand. They did not negotiate. They did not retreat. They consumed everything in their path, breaking down matter at the molecular level to fuel their expansion. 3,000 years ago they had appeared without warning and carved a path of destruction through Council space. Only a massive coordinated effort by every Council species had driven them back, but that victory had come at a cost. Millions dead, entire colonies lost, and the Krevnath had simply retreated to the dark spaces beyond the galactic rim, waiting. Why now? Chen wondered aloud. Why come back after 3,000 years? Dr. Park, who had been reading the historical records, had a theory. According to this, the Krevnath are resource-driven. They expand when they need more raw materials for growth. Maybe they've exhausted their current territory. Or maybe, he paused, maybe they detected humanity. A new species means new genetic material, new patterns they haven't consumed before. That's a cheerful thought, Rodriguez muttered. 6 hours later, the Indomitable dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Tarsus system. What Chen saw made her blood run cold. The colony was burning. Even from millions of kilometers away, she could see the fires raging on the planet's surface. In orbit, 6 Council defense platforms were under siege by dozens of organic ships that looked like massive insects crossed with sea creatures. Their hulls pulsed and writhed, covered in what looked like armor plates made of chitin, and they were winning. As Chen watched, one of the defense platforms exploded in a ball of flame. The Krevnath ships swarmed over the debris, their hulls opening up to consume the wreckage. Captain, the remaining Council ships are requesting immediate assistance, the communications officer reported. They're down to 3 platforms and a handful of escorts. They can't hold much longer. Where's Navarch Tolvan? Chen asked. The Quilori commander had become an ally during the inspection process. His flagship is there, barely functional. He's asking for our ETA. Tell him 2 minutes. Weapons. I want firing solutions on every Krevnath ship in range. Rodriguez prepared to launch fighters. All batteries load nuclear-tipped penetrators. Vexthal, who had been silent during the journey, spoke up. Captain, you cannot use nuclear weapons. It is forbidden. The radiation alone will be a problem for later, Chen cut him off. Right now, those people down there need us to be exactly what you were afraid of. A ship with no limits, she opened a channel to the entire ship. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to engage an enemy that doesn't follow the rules. An enemy that doesn't care about honor or the warfare accords. Today we show the galaxy why humanity builds ships like the Indomitable. Today we show them that sometimes overwhelming force is exactly what's needed. Make every shot count. The Indomitable surged forward, accelerating to combat speed. Chen could feel the deck vibrating beneath her feet as the ship's massive reactors poured power into the engines and weapons. Entering maximum range, Rodriguez called out. Krevnath ships are turning toward us. They're forming up. Looks like 23 contacts moving to intercept. They're curious about the new player, Chen said. Weapons fire when ready. The railguns spoke first. 8 massive weapons, each accelerating projectiles to incredible speeds, fired in perfect synchronization. The result was devastating. The first salvo hit the lead Krevnath ship dead center. The kinetic impact was like a meteor strike. The organic hull literally exploded, armor plates flying in all directions. Biological matter flash freezing in the vacuum of space. The ship behind it took a direct hit as well, torn nearly in half. 8 shots, 2 kills, Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with shock. Captain, the Council weapons have been hitting these things for half an hour and barely scratched them. Different engineering philosophy. Chen said grimly. Reload and fire at will. Launch missiles on my mark. The Indomitable closed the distance, her railguns firing continuously. Each shot found its mark, each impact catastrophic. The Krevnath ships tried to return fire, launching bioprojectiles that looked like massive seeds covered in spikes. The Indomitable's point defense systems came online, thousands of small-caliber weapons creating a wall of lead. The bioprojectiles were shredded before they could get within a kilometer of the hull. The Krevnath are adapting, Dr. Park called out. Look at the ones in the back. Their armor is thickening, changing composition. Then we escalate, Chen said. Launch missiles. All tubes. Full spread. 40 missiles erupted from the Indomitable's launch bays, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space. They spread out in a complex pattern, targeting different ships, different approach angles. The Krevnath tried to intercept them, but they were designed to evade. Smart systems, random maneuvering, decoys, and countermeasures. 37 missiles reached their targets. 37 nuclear fireballs blossomed in the void. The Krevnath ships closest to the blast simply ceased to exist, vaporized instantly. Those farther away were tossed like leaves in a storm, their organic hulls cracking and breaking under the thermal shock. In less than 3 minutes, the Indomitable had destroyed or disabled 23 Krevnath ships. The remaining organic vessels, those that had been attacking the defense platforms, suddenly broke off and scattered. They fled in different directions, moving faster than Chen had thought possible. Don't let them escape, Chen ordered. Hunt them down. Everyone. For the next hour, the Indomitable pursued the surviving Krevnath through the Tarsus system. It was brutal, methodical work. Each ship was tracked, targeted, and destroyed. By the time the relentless and vengeful spirit arrived, the battle was over. Chen stood on the bridge looking at the debris field that had been a Krevnath attack force. She felt no satisfaction, only a grim awareness of what had just happened. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the most violent way possible. Captain, Navarch Tolvan is requesting permission to come aboard, the communications officer said. Granted. Have him meet me in the observation deck. Chen found the Quilori commander staring out at the wreckage through the massive viewport. His vine-like appendages were moving slowly, a sign of deep thought. 6 hours, he said without turning around. The Council fleet fought for 6 hours and lost 90% of our ships. You arrived and ended it in 43 minutes. We had advantages, Chen said. Better weapons, heavier armor. The Council chamber was a vast space carved from a single asteroid, floating in neutral territory between 3 star systems. Commodore Sarah Chen had never seen anything like it. Thousands of representatives from hundreds of species filled the tiered seating, their voices creating a strange harmony as their translation devices worked to convert everything into a common language. Chen stood in the center of it all, feeling very small and very human. Beside her stood Admiral Okonkwo, who had traveled from Earth for this emergency session. On her other side, Navarch Tolvan waited quietly, his plant-like features impossible to read. Assessor Vexthal was speaking, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. The human intervention at Tarsus Colony was effective. No one disputes this, but it also demonstrated exactly why we cannot allow unrestricted military technology in Council space. In less than 1 hour, a single human vessel caused more destruction than our entire fleet, managed in 6 hours of combat. Destruction of an enemy that was killing our people, Ambassador Quilori interrupted. Her amphibious features were flushed a deep red, a sign of anger. Assessor, you would have preferred we let the Krevnath consume Tarsus Colony? Let them slaughter millions while we debated the proper energy limits for weapons? I would have preferred we relied on proper Council procedures, Vexthal shot back. We have protocols for Krevnath incursions. We were mobilizing a task force. A task force that would have arrived 3 days too late, Tolvan said, his voice calm but firm. I was there, Assessor. I watched my crew die following those protocols. The Krevnath do not care about our energy limits or our standardized frequencies. They came to consume and they were succeeding. A murmur ran through the chamber. Chen could see the Council was divided. Some species seemed grateful for humanity's intervention. Others looked fearful, even hostile. She understood both reactions. In saving Tarsus, humanity had revealed just how dangerous they could be. A crystalline representative stood, its body refracting light into rainbow patterns. We acknowledge the humans acted with good intentions, but intentions are not enough. We have built our civilization on rules, on limitations, on mutual agreement to restrict our most dangerous capabilities. If we allow humanity to ignore these rules, we invite chaos. The chaos is already here, Chen said, speaking for the first time. The chamber fell silent. With respect, members of the council, the Krevnath don't care about your rules. They came back after 3,000 years and they'll come back again. You can't negotiate with them. You can't make them follow the warfare accords. You can only stop them with force. And you believe humanity should be that force? Another representative asked. This one looked almost reptilian, with scales that shifted colors. I believe humanity can help, Chen said carefully. We didn't come here looking for war. We came hoping to join a peaceful civilization. But we've learned something in our history. Something that maybe your species have forgotten during your long peace. Sometimes peace requires strength. Sometimes you need warriors who can do what others cannot. What you are describing sounds dangerously like mercenaries, the crystalline being said, or worse, an enforcement class, a separate military that operates outside our laws. It is exactly that, Vexthal said. His compound eyes were flickering rapidly. And I must formally oppose this proposal. It violates the fundamental principles of the Council. We are equals, all of us. Creating a special class of warrior species undermines that equality. Ambassador Kolori stood, her skin cycling through several colors before settling on a deep blue. Then let me make a different proposal. We do not create a new class. We recognize that humanity fills a need we did not know we had. When Krevnath attack, or when any threat emerges that falls outside the warfare accords, we call upon our human allies. They respond with their full capabilities. In exchange, they agree to follow our protocols in all other situations. And if they decide they like having power, someone called out, what stops them from turning those weapons on us? The question hung in the air. Chen felt every eye in the chamber turn toward her. This was the real fear, she realized. Not that humanity couldn't stop the Krevnath, but that humanity might be just as dangerous. Admiral Okonkwo stepped forward. Let me tell you about human history, he said, his voice carrying across the vast space. We nearly destroyed ourselves. Multiple times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental collapse. We came within hours of extinction more than once. But we survived because we learned. We learned that power without restraint is suicide. We learned that strength must be tempered with wisdom. Your words are beautiful, the reptilian representative said. But words are easy. Actions define us. Then judge us by our actions, Okonkwo replied. We came to Tarsus when asked. We stopped the threat. And then we stopped fighting. We didn't claim the system. We didn't demand payment or territory. We helped because it was right. That is who we are. The debate continued for hours. Proposal after proposal was made and rejected. Create a joint command structure. Limit human vessels to certain regions. Establish an oversight committee to approve any military action. Each idea had supporters and opponents, and none could achieve consensus. Finally, as the session was approaching its 10th hour, Chen requested permission to speak again. Members of the council, while you debate, the Krevnath are still out there. Navarch Tollivan, you mentioned you recovered some data from the battlefield? Tollivan nodded and activated a holographic display. Our science team analyzed the destroyed Krevnath vessels. We found evidence of something disturbing. These ships were scouts. Advanced scouts, yes, but part of a much larger force. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Vextal's eyes went completely dark. How large? We estimate at least 200 vessels, Tollivan said. Possibly more. And they are not in the outer reaches. Our tracking data suggests they are staging near the astral gates. Chen felt her stomach drop. The astral gates were ancient structures, remnants of a civilization that predated the Council. They allowed instantaneous travel between different regions of the galaxy. If the Krevnath controlled them, they could strike anywhere. When? Ambassador Kolori asked. Unknown. But the data suggests soon. Days, perhaps. Maybe less. The chamber fell into chaos. Representatives were shouting, demanding emergency measures, calling for evacuation of systems near the gates. Chen watched the panic spread and understood something fundamental. The Council had been at peace for so long they had forgotten how to respond to real threats. She turned to Okonkwo. Sir, we need to act now. The Council hasn't authorized anything, he said. Then we act without authorization. If the Krevnath come through those gates, millions will die before the Council finishes debating. We mobilize the fleet, all of it. Okonkwo was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Do it. I'll handle the political fallout. Chen pulled out her communication device and sent the emergency signal. Every human vessel, from the massive dreadnoughts under construction in the orbital yards to the smaller frigates on patrol, received the same message. Rally point at the astral gates, maximum speed. Prepare for full combat operations. She looked up to find Vextal standing in front of her. His compound eyes were locked on her device. You just mobilized your entire fleet without council approval. You realize this could be seen as an act of aggression? Or an act of defense, Chen replied. Assessor, I understand your fears, I do. But right now, those fears are less important than the thousands of families living near the gates who have no idea what's coming for them. You are gambling with the future of human-council relations, Vextal said. I'm gambling on being right, Chen said. If I'm wrong, if there's no attack, then you can expel us from council space. Ban our ships. Do whatever you need to do. But if I'm right and we don't act, then none of this matters because we'll all be dead. Ambassador Quillori approached, with Tolvan beside her. We're coming with you, the Quillori said. I'm authorizing all Quillori vessels to join the human fleet. Tolvan, my people will stand with you as well, the Navarch said. Other representatives began approaching. Not all of them, but enough. Species who had colonies near the gates. Species who had lost people at Tarsus. Species who were willing to trust that humanity meant what they said. Chen felt a weight settle on her shoulders. She had just committed humanity to a course of action that could define their relationship with the galaxy for generations. If they won, they would prove themselves as allies. If they lost, they would die trying. How long until your fleet is ready? Tolvan asked. Chen checked her device. The Indomitable is ready now. 23 other vessels will reach the rally point within 36 hours. And the Krevnath? We'll find out soon enough, Chen said. I'm authorizing a reconnaissance mission. Someone needs to get eyes on that staging area. That's a suicide mission, Vextal said. The Krevnath will detect any ship that gets close. Then we send a ship they won't expect, Chen said. Mine. Before anyone could protest, she was moving, heading for the docking bay where the Indomitable waited. Rodriguez and her core crew fell in behind her, followed by Tolvan and a handful of Quillori officers. You know this is insane, Rodriguez said as they ran. Completely, Chen agreed, but it's also necessary. We need to know what we're facing. The Indomitable moved through the darkness between stars like a ghost. Every non-essential system was shut down, her reactor running at minimal power. On the bridge, Commodore Chen watched the sensors with unwavering focus. They were approaching the Krevnath staging area, and one mistake would mean death for everyone on board. Contact, Lieutenant Rodriguez whispered, as if the enemy could hear them. Multiple signals ahead. Captain, I'm reading at least 200 ships. Maybe more. The sensor returns are strange, like they're overlapping. Chen leaned forward, studying the display. The Krevnath vessels were clustered around one of the astral gates, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescence. They were beautiful in a horrifying way, like deep-sea creatures brought into the light. Get as much data as you can, Chen ordered. Ship counts, configurations, movement patterns, everything. Dr. Park was working at a science station, analyzing the Krevnath biosignatures. Captain, I'm seeing something unusual. These ships are different from the ones at Tarsus. Larger, more complex, and they're communicating constantly, some kind of bioelectric signal. The hive mind coordinating, Chen said. They're planning something. Navarch Tolvan, who had insisted on coming along, pointed to a section of the display. There in the center. That massive structure. Is that what I think it is? Chen felt her blood run cold. At the heart of the Krevnath fleet was a ship that dwarfed all the others. It was easily 10 times the size of the Indomitable, its hull covered in what looked like armor plates made from some kind of metallic chitin. Bioelectric energy crackled across its surface. A queen ship, Dr. Park breathed. The coordination center for the entire hive. If they're bringing that through the gate, this isn't a raid. It's an invasion. How long until they move? Chen asked. Rodriguez was frantically calculating. Based on their current activity level and the energy building up around the gate, I'd say 12 hours. Maybe less. Chen opened a communication channel back to the fleet. This is Commodore Chen to all human vessels. I'm transmitting our findings now. The Krevnath are real, they're massive, and they're coming. ETA to the gates is 12 hours. We need to be there first. Admiral Okonkwo's voice came back immediately. Chen, the fleet is mobilizing. We'll have 23 ships at the rally point in 6 hours, but that might not be enough against 200 Krevnath vessels. It'll have to be, Chen said. Sir, I'm staying here to monitor. If they move early, someone needs to warn you. Negative. You get back here. That's an order. With respect, sir, this is too important. If we lose track of them, they could hit us from an unexpected angle. The Indomitable stays. Before Okonkwo could respond, alarm screamed across the bridge. They've detected us! Rodriguez shouted. Multiple contacts breaking off from the main group heading our way. All power to engines, Chen ordered. Get us out of here! The Indomitable's reactor roared to life, flooding her systems with power. The ship leaped forward, accelerating away from the Krevnath swarm. Behind them, a dozen organic vessels gave chase, their bioelectric weapons charging. They're faster than us, Rodriguez reported. Captain, they're going to catch us before we can reach the gate. Chen's mind raced. They couldn't fight 12 ships, not alone, but they couldn't let themselves be caught either. The data they carried was too important. Launch the data probe, she ordered. Everything we recorded goes back to the fleet immediately. Then prepare to engage. If we're going to die here, we'll make it count. The probe launched from the Indomitable's bay, its small engine burning bright as it raced away at maximum speed. The Krevnath ships ignored it, focused entirely on the bigger threat. Good. That meant the data would get through. Chen turned her ship around to face the pursuers. It went against every instinct, but running wouldn't save them. All weapons, fire at will. Target the closest ships. Let's see if they learned anything from Tarsus. The railgun spoke, and the first Krevnath ship exploded in a shower of biological matter. The second took a glancing hit and spun away, damaged but still functional. The remaining ships spread out, moving in complex patterns that made targeting difficult. They're adapting, Dr. Park said, using evasive maneuvers, coordinated movements. They're learning from our tactics. Then we adapt too, Chen said. Launch missiles, pattern Delta. Confuse their sensors with multiple targets. 20 missiles erupted from the Indomitable, spreading out in a wide net. The Krevnath ships tried to evade, but the missiles were too many, too fast. 6 more organic vessels died in nuclear fire, but the cost was high. One of the surviving Krevnath managed to get close enough to fire its bioweapon. The projectile hit the Indomitable's hull with tremendous force, and Chen felt the entire ship shudder. Hull breach on Deck 7, Rodriguez reported. Ceiling compartments. We've got casualties. Keep fighting, Chen ordered, even as another hit rocked the ship. The remaining Krevnath vessels were closing in, sensing weakness. Engineering, I need more power to the forward shields. Captain, something's happening with the main fleet, Rodriguez suddenly said. They're moving. All of them. They're coming through the gate early. They must have known we were here, used us as a trigger. Chen's heart sank. How long until they arrive? 20 minutes. And our fleet is still hours away. She looked around the bridge at her crew. They had known this was a possibility. They had volunteered anyway, every single one of them, and now they were going to die buying time for the galaxy. All ships, this is Commodore Chen. The Krevnath are coming through now. Full invasion force. They'll hit the Astral Gate station in 20 minutes. Evacuate everyone you can. Fight for every second, and know that humanity stands with you. She prepared to give the order to continue fighting, to take down as many Krevnath as possible before the end. But then Rodriguez looked up, his face showing shock and hope. Captain, new contacts. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. It's the fleet. The entire fleet. They made it. On the view screen, human warships materialized like vengeful angels. Not just 23. Chen counted 30, then 40. Ships that had been under construction. That weren't supposed to be ready for months. Ships that Earth had sent anyway because this was too important. And they weren't alone. Quilori vessels appeared alongside them, sleek and fast. Ships from a dozen other Council species followed, ready to fight. The Admiral is hailing us, Rodriguez said. Okonkwo's face appeared on the screen. Chen, you look like hell. Get back here. We've got a battle to fight. Sir, how did you get here so fast? Turned out a lot of Council species were tired of waiting for permission, Okonkwo said with a grim smile. When the data probe arrived with your recordings, the holdouts finally broke. Nobody wanted to be known as the species that stood by while the galaxy burned. Now get moving. The Krevnath are coming through. The Indomitable limped back toward the human fleet, trailing atmosphere from her damaged hull. Chen watched as the Allied forces formed up around the Astral Gate. Human ships took the center positions, their heavy armor and powerful weapons creating a wall of steel. Council vessels spread out on the flanks, their speed and maneuverability allowing them to cover the gaps. And then the gate activated. Energy crackled across its ancient structure, and the first Krevnath ships began emerging. They came in waves, organic vessels pouring through the opening like insects from a disturbed nest. 50 ships. 100. 200. All ships, this is Admiral Okonkwo. You know the plan. Human vessels focus on the heavy units. Council ships handle the smaller craft. Our goal is simple. Nothing gets past us, not one ship. This is where we hold the line. For the Council. For the galaxy. For every family that's counting on us to protect them. The Krevnath Queen ship emerged, massive and terrible. It made Chen think of ancient legends of dragons and monsters. Bioelectric energy danced across its hull as it charged its weapons. Target that Queen ship, Okonkwo ordered. All human vessels concentrated fire. Hit it with everything. 20 human warships opened fire simultaneously. The space between them and the Queen ship lit up with railgun fire, missiles, and energy weapons. The Krevnath vessel's armor held for a moment, then began cracking under the sustained assault. But the Queen wasn't alone. Smaller Krevnath ships swarmed forward, trying to protect their command vessel. They crashed into the Allied lines like a wave hitting a breakwater. The battle became chaos, ships weaving between each other in deadly patterns. Chen watched from her damaged ship as the Relentless took a direct hit, her hull breaching. But the human vessel kept fighting, her crew sealing the damage and returning fire. A Quilori frigate dove between two Krevnath cruisers, her point defense grid tearing them apart at close range. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides fell, tumbling through space as shattered wrecks. But slowly, inevitably, the human and council forces began to push forward. Their coordination improved. They learned to work together, humans providing the hammer while council ships were the anvil. Chen saw an opening. The Queen ship's defenses were focused on the main fleet, its attention divided. The Indomitable was damaged, written off as no longer a threat. Rodriguez, do we have engines?
Barely, Captain, what are you thinking?